I call this Metropolitan Board of Zoning Appeals Division 1 meeting to order. This is a public hearing of the Metropolitan Board of Zoning Appeals Division 1. I am Clint McKay, acting chairperson of Division 1. There are other board members present are David Duncan and Renee Napoleon. Legal counsel for the board today is Caitlin Campbell. Welcome. Staff members present today from Division of Planning are Eddie Hanea, Herbert Ulenig, Marlena Herrera, Genesis Hill, and Heather Steffen. Matt Pleasant is the current planning administrator. The board has copies of the zoning ordinances that will be incorporated by reference into the record of each case heard today. The proceedings of this hearing are governed by the Board of Rules of Procedure. The expedited cases will be heard immediately after all requests for continuance or withdrawals. As each non-expedited case is called, petitioners and remonstrators interested in that particular case will please stand. Those who intend to testify will please remain standing and be sworn. Petitioners should be on your left and remonstrators on your right as you face the board. Those who testify will state their name and address for the record before beginning to testify. Petitioners and persons appearing in support of a case being heard shall have a maximum of 15 minutes for the presentation of evidence, statements, arguments, and in support of the petition. Remonstrators and persons appearing in opposition to the petition shall have a maximum of 15 minutes for the presentation of evidence, statements, and arguments in opposition to the petition. Staff will then present to the administrator comments regarding the petition. The petitioner will then be allowed 5 minutes for rebuttal and summation of the case. Rebuttal must be limited to the subject matter of the initial presentations. Remonstrators will then be allowed 5 minutes for rebuttal of the petitioner's rebuttal evidence and a brief closing statement. No further evidence, statements, or arguments will be heard unless it is at the direction of the board. Please limit your testimony and evidence to the matters covered in the statutory requirements, which must be met in order for the board to grant a variance. If the petitioners have failed to comply with all notice requirements as stipulated by the board's rule of procedure, including posting of the notice sign on the subject property at least 23 days prior to the meeting or the hearing, the board may continue the petition. Anyone at this hearing who thinks complete and proper notice has not been given and would like the petition continued due to a lack of proper notice must bring this matter to the board's attention at the beginning of the hearing. The board may impose various conditions or commitments as amendments before reaching a decision on certain petitions. The installation of landscaping and screening, the paving of parking area, and the dedication of right-of-way are examples. These conditions and commitments are an integral part of the board's decision and must be met for a granted variance to be valid. Compliance with conditions imposed by the board must be approved by the affidavit of compliance submitted by the petitioner within 30 days of completion. Unless otherwise specified, an improvement location permit must be obtained prior to the establishment of the authorized improvements. Failure to comply with conditions of commitments of a variance grant is a violation enforceable by the Department of Business and Neighborhood Services. A person may file a written request to receive notice of the filing of a petition for judicial review of a decision of the board. The written request must be filled within 5 days of the board's decision and must include the person's full name and correct mailing address and a reference to the board's petition number. Forms are available and may be obtained from the board's secretary. Please be advised that contacting members of the board regarding a matter pending before the board outside the public hearing process is prohibited. Please be courteous and orderly at all times, and please be sure all cell phone ringers are turned off. Please note that there are only 3 members present today. Your request will need 3 votes to take action on a request. If an indecisive vote occurs, your petition will be automatically continued to the next hearing of the board. We will take this into consideration when hearing special requests. Is there anyone in the audience who has any questions about our procedures? If not, before we hear special requests, I will ask for a waiver of our rules or procedures to allow the board to vote for all expedited petitions and adopt their findings of facts without any additional testimony from the individual petitioners. I'll need a motion from a board member.
Duncan, so moved.
Second.
I'll now ask for a vote. Duncan?
Yes.
Napoleon?
Yes.
McKay, yes. We will consider special requests and continuances at this time.
I'm Jacob Cox with Cox Law Office, 1606 North Delaware Street, Indianapolis, Indiana, 46202. I'm here as the agent on behalf of petitioners Kevin Pritchard and Tatiana Pritchard. It's petition 2022-DV1-036. We're requesting a continuance to the August 2nd hearing because we are working with the Land Use Committee for Meridian Hills, and we're going to be presenting at a council meeting for them later, and we'd like to have their support when we actually bring the petition to the board.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience with an interest in this request, 2022 DV1-036? Okay, seeing none. Do we just need to acknowledge that or vote on it, or? Go to staff. Oh, yes. Staff, any comments?
Thank you, Chairperson McKay and members of the board. Staff has no objection to the continuous request to the August 2nd, 2022 hearing date. That would be without additional notice. Thank you.
So August 2nd, you say?
Yes, that is correct.
Thank you. Okay, so we do need a verbal vote? Okay. So, we'll need a verbal vote, so do we call the roll, or do I call it, or do you guys call it? Okay. Duncan?
Duncan, yes.
Napoleon?
Napoleon, yes.
McKay is yes. Thank you for your time
Thank you.
and patience with the new chair.
Good afternoon. My name is Bill Niemeyer, and I'm here today regarding matter 2022 UV1010, and the petitioner is requesting that this matter be continued until August 2nd, and we will require additional notice because we are working out final details of a site plan. So we will provide notice within the next few days.
I'm sorry, could you give me that a number again?
Sure, it's 2022 UV1-010. If it helps on the agenda, I think it's the top matter on the second page.
Got it. Thank you very much. Is there anyone else in the audience with an interest in this request, 2022 UV1-010? Seeing none, we'll hear from staff.
Thank you, Chairperson McKay and members of the board. Staff has no objection to the continuance to the August 2nd, 2022 hearing date with additional notice. We are aware that there are some changes to the request, and that would change the request and the addresses included.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions? Okay. So we'll now take a vote on the continuance. Duncan?
Duncan, yes.
Napoleon?
Napoleon, yes.
McKay is yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Paul Carroll, offices at 13 North State Street, Suite 241, Greenfield, Indiana. Represent the petitioner, Carrier Corporation, with respect to petition 2022-DV1-032, property address of 7310 West Moore Street in Indianapolis, Indiana. We have discussed this petition with staff. We're aware of no remonstrance, are in agreement with staff with respect to the commitments. And we would ask that this petition be transferred to the expedited docket.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience with an interest in this request? Seeing none, we'll hear from staff.
Thank you, Chairperson McKay and members of the board. The petitioner is in support of staff's recommendations of commitments for 3, referring to a sidewalk, landscaping, and then elevation change to remain along the right-of-way. Therefore, staff is comfortable with placing this petition on the expedited portion of the docket.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions?
No.
Nope. Okay, so we'll now vote on moving this to the expedited docket. Duncan?
Duncan, yes.
Napoleon?
Napoleon, yes.
McKay is yes.
Thank you.
Hello, Sarah Walters, 1073 Oliver Avenue, 46237, here today for petition 2022 UV1018. I would like to withdraw a portion of this petition, being the 7-foot side setback. so I'd like to withdraw that and move forward with the rest of the petition. I believe this change will gain staff support, and if so, I would like to be moved to the expedited docket.
Okay, thank you. We'll now hear from staff.
Thank you, Chairperson McKay. In regards to 2022 UV 1018 for 2658 South Ribble Avenue, staff is now supportive of the request due to their withdrawal of the side yard setback, as they will be now meeting that requirement, and we are supportive of it being moved to the expedited docket.
Okay, thank you for that. Any questions?
Nope.
Okay, we'll now vote on moving 2022 UV1-018 to the expedited docket. Mr. Duncan?
I'm sorry, just one point. I don't think we polled the audience to see if there's any.
Oh, yep, good point, sir. Thank you very much for reminding me. Is there anyone in the audience who has any comments on 2022 UV1-018? I do not see any right now. Okay.
Additionally, did you acknowledge the withdrawal?
No, so we're withdrawing a portion of it?
Yes.
Okay, so that has been acknowledged by the board. Thank you for that. And I don't see anyone in the audience here remonstrating against the request. So I'd like to take a vote now to move 2022 UV1-018 to the expedited docket. Mr.
Duncan, yes.
Napoleon, yes.
McKay, yes. Thank you for your time.
Acting Chairperson McKay, members of the board, David Kingen with offices at 6180 East Market Street here before you on case 2022 DV 1025, property at 16 West Morris Street and 1150 South Meridian Street. In light of there only being 3 members present, we would ask that this petition be moved to the August 2nd hearing. We had initially asked for it to be continued and transferred to the July 19th hearing, but we understand that agenda is full. And we realize it says that it's to be continued for an automatic continuance. We did not receive notice of the automatic continuance request. So we, again, would ask that this, with only 3 members present, we would ask that this petition be moved to the August 2nd hearing, and that may be with or without notice if any changes are made to the site plan.
Okay, so you're requesting that petition 2022 DV1-025 be transferred to the August 2nd hearing?
No, just continued due to the only 3 members being present.
So continue to the August 2nd hearing.
Please.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience with an interest in 2022 DV1-025? Seeing none, we'll hear from staff.
Thank you, Chairperson McKay, members of the board. This petition was automatically continued by a registered neighborhood organization, continuing this petition to the August 2nd hearing already. And that would be without additional notice, so therefore the petitioner's request is mute.
Okay.
And that would just only need to be acknowledged by the board.
Okay. Mr. Yoning, thank you very
And
much.
Again, we did not receive notice of that automatic continuance.
Okay. How were they notified? Do we know?
We didn't receive a copy of the.
It was their responsibility to mail it to you.
I didn't receive. Yeah, they did not mail it to me.
Okay, maybe it's still in the mail. They just have to mail it by Thursday. You don't have to receive it by Thursday, is my understanding.
Well, again, it's only 3 members present. We'd rather the neighborhood association be.
They filed it automatic, so the automatic is still on file and takes precedent.
If it's valid.
And I believe it is valid, yes.
So if not valid, then it will be continued because of the 3 members present.
For the record, it's being continued automatically, yes, because as of now, it's valid.
Again, we've not received that notice. If we receive it, then it's valid. If we don't, then we would, again, ask that the board continue it due to the lack of attendance today by the board.
So you're requesting it be continued to August 2nd, and Mr. Ulinek thinks it already is automatically continued to August 2nd. Is that correct? Is that how I'm hearing this?
That's what he's saying, but we have not received our copy of the notice for the automatic continuance. If we
Okay.
don't receive it,
So, I apologize, but David, what's the procedural difference?
procedural difference is that would preserve the automatic continuance filed by the neighborhood association.
So your proposal is that you want to exercise a continuance because of the members and give the neighborhood association an additional continuance at the August 2nd?
If they need it.
If they need it.
We have received an automatic continuance, and we have acknowledged, staff has approved and supported or allowed the automatic continuance. Whether Mr. Kingan received it or not does not preserve their future use of an automatic continuance. That said, because Mr. Kingan has not received this automatic continuance, I believe it would not be inappropriate for you to motion and vote to continue at the petitioner's request without notice.
Okay. Thank you for that, Heather. So we're asking for a continuance. We will vote on a continuance to move 2022 DV1-025 to the August 2nd hearing. Okay? I'll now take a vote. Mr. Duncan?
Duncan, yes.
Napoleon, yes.
McKay, yes.
Thank you very much.
Mhm.
Chairperson McKay, members of the board, staff would draw your attention to petition number 2022 UV1-014 located at 5200 North High School Road. The petitioner has filed an automatic continuance in this petition, continuing it to the August 2nd, 2022 hearing. This would just require your acknowledgement.
It is acknowledged.
Thank you. Staff will also draw your attention to petition number 2022 UV1-015 located at 4400 Sam Jones Expressway. The petitioner has filed an automatic continuance on this petition as well, continuing it to the August 2nd, 2022 hearing. This would require your acknowledgement.
It is acknowledged.
And staff will also draw your attention to petition number 2022 UV1-023 located at 5430 Victory Drive. Timely automatic continuance was filed by a registered neighborhood organization, in this instance continuing it to the August 2nd, 2022 hearing without, this would just require your acknowledgement as well.
It is acknowledged.
Thank you.
Chairperson McKay and members of the board, staff will draw your attention to petition 2022-UV1-012, addressed at 5531 East 82nd Street. A timely automatic continuance request was submitted by the petitioner to continue this to the August 2nd, 2022 hearing date, and that would require the board's acknowledgement.
It is acknowledged.
Thank you. Staff will draw your attention to 2022-UV1-013, addressed at 4015 East 82nd Street. Again, a timely automatic continuance was filed from the petitioner requesting to continue this to the August 2nd, 2022 hearing date, and that would require the board's acknowledgement.
It is acknowledged.
Thank you. And lastly, staff will draw your attention to petition 2022-UV1-016, addressed at 1060 Broad Ripple Avenue. A timely automatic continuance request was submitted by the petitioner, continuing this matter to the August 2nd, 2022 hearing date, and that would require the board's acknowledgement.
It is acknowledged.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chairperson McKay and members of the board, staff would draw your attention to 2022 UV1017 for 9067 Crawfordsville Road. On July 1st, the petitioner's representative requested that this petition be withdrawn. This would require the board's acknowledgement.
It is acknowledged.
Additionally, staff would draw your attention to 2022 UV1020 for 6805 Jackson Street. A timely automatic continuance was filed by a registered neighborhood organization, continuing this to the August 2nd hearing. This would require the board's acknowledgement.
It is acknowledged.
Chairperson McKay, members of the board, staff will draw your attention to petition number 2022 UV1-021 located at 7619 Acton Road. The petitioner indicated they would be in attendance to request a continuance. I'm not sure If they are not, if you could poll the audience, if they are not, then staff will request a continuance on their behalf.
And that is UV1-021.
021, yes, 7619 Acton Road.
Okay, is there anyone in the audience with an interest in the request 2022 UV1-021? Seeing none?
Thank you. Staff will.
Hold on a second. I can't see it through the plexiglass. Is there someone here that raised their hand? Okay. Would you like to come up and be sworn in? Sorry, I couldn't see you through the glass here.
Traffic was awful. Yes, I wanted to request a continuance to August the 2nd.
Okay, can you state your name and address for the record?
Judy Poling, 7619 Acton Road, Indianapolis, Indiana, 46259.
And you're requesting a continuance for 2022 UV1-021?
Correct.
And Mr. Yelnick, is that the same date that?
Staff has no objection to the request, and that would be without additional notice unless modified to require it.
Okay, and do we just need to acknowledge it?
No, this is for cause, so you would have to take a vote.
Okay. Thank you very much. Anything else you'd like to add, ma'am? Is that just why you were here? Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. All right, we'll now vote on 2022 UV1-021. Duncan?
Duncan, yes.
Napoleon?
Napoleon, yes.
McKay is a yes. Are there any other special requests and continuance at this time?
I saw someone in the audience start to approach before staff began speaking. I don't know if he still needed. I'll be calling you. Okay.
Okay. All right, so we'll now proceed with the expedited docket.
(2022) DV1033, 4525 Cold Spring Road, Washington Township, Council District 8, Zone D5, FF. Justin Miller and Lindsay Miller by John J. Moore requesting a variance of development standards of the Consolidated Zoning and Subdivision Ordinance to provide for a 1,536 square foot pole barn located in front of the established front building line of the primary dwelling, not permitted. 2022 DV1035, 3801 South Post Road, Franklin Township, Council District 25, Zone C4 and C5. Emergent Solar Energy by Jeremy Lipinski requesting variance of development standards of the Consolidated Zoning and Subdivision Ordinance to provide for accessory renewable energy equipment, solar panels, in the front yard of Post Road and Interstate 74, not permitted, with a 0-foot setback from the right-of-way of Interstate 74, 20-foot transitional yard required. 2022 UV1019, 4430 Sam Jones Expressway, Wayne Township, Council District 22, Zoned I2. Justin Quinlan requesting a variance of use of the Consolidated Zoning and Subdivision Ordinance to provide for a 12,000-gallon diesel tank located 480 feet from a protected district and 165 feet from a commercial district, 500 feet of separation required. 2022 UV1022, 3002 North Tibbs Avenue, Wayne Township, Council District 8, Zone C1, HFO LLC by Henry Onochi, requesting a variance of use of the Consolidated Zoning and Subdivision Ordinance to provide for the conversion of the existing structure into a residential triplex, not permitted. 2022 DV1032, 7310 West Morris Street, Wayne Township, Council District 22, Zoned I3 and I4. Carrier Corp by Paul J. Carroll, requesting a variance of development standards of the Consolidated Zoning and Subdivision Ordinance to provide for a 1,140 square foot building addition with a 20-foot setback from Girls School Road, 60 feet from the proposed right-of-way required. 2022 UV1018 amended petition, 2658 South Ribble Avenue, Wayne Township, Council District 16, Zone D5, FW, FF. Daniel Cobb by Sarah Walters requesting a variance of use and development standards of the Consolidated Zoning and Subdivision Ordinance to provide for a second primary dwelling on a lot not permitted with 504 square feet of main floor living area for a one-story dwelling, minimum 900 square feet required, with a 15-foot rear setback, 20 feet setback required. Is there anyone here today in opposition to any of these petitions I've just read into the record? Chairman McKay, that's the end of the expedited docket.
Thank you very much, Heather. So we will now proceed and have the board cast their votes via ballot.
For petitions 2022 DV1033, 2022 DV1035, 2022 UV1019, 2022 UV1022, 2022 DV1032, and 2022 UV1018. 3 votes cast, 3 yes votes. These petitions are approved. Petition 2022 UV1019 will be continued for the adoption of revised findings of fact in support of the board's decision. And with that, everyone on the expedited docket is free to go, unless you have additional business with the board.
Thank you very much.
HOV 004, 2363 North Parker Avenue, Center Township, Council District 17, Zone D5. Eric Richardson is requesting a variance of development standards of the Consolidated Zoning and Subdivision Ordinance to provide for a single-family dwelling with a 0-foot corner side setback from the right-of-way of Glen Drive, 8-foot corner side setback required within the clear sight triangle, not permitted. All persons speaking on this today, please step forward to be sworn in. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalty? Got somebody coming. I'm going to wait for you. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalty for perjury to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Petitioner, please approach the microphone. Begin by stating your name and address for the record, and then you will have 15 minutes.
My name is Eric Richardson. The address that I reside at is 4230 5 Points Road, Southport, Indiana, 46239. So to start today's case in regards to 2363 North Parker Avenue, Center Township, the client is requesting a variance of the 0-foot setback requirement that is needed on the road that is running in the same direction as is Glen Drive. The reason being is that the way that the lot is being cut at the moment, it is cut at a diagonal angle, which in essence if you look at the site map, makes a good chunk of the land undevelopable. There's nothing that you can fit anything that resembles a house on. So really, in reality, that lot of 2,600 square feet is being shrunken down to, I don't know, you're looking at less than 2,000 square feet. So with the chunk that my client is currently working with now, because of the way that it's being cut at, all the other setback requirements that are needed for the zoning requirements in D5 are all being upheld. So that includes the 10-foot front setback requirement that is needed from the front of the property line is met. 5 feet from the side that is running closest with the neighbor is met. There's more than 20 feet setback from the back of the lot. The only thing that is not met is the side that is running with Glen Drive. And like I stated, the way that the property line is cut, there's no way that you're going to be able to develop a house of any sort on that lot without getting it within that 5 feet from both what is on the neighbor's side to your left and the vacated right-of-way property with the city to your right. Now, we did speak with I forgot which department it was, but in terms of the vacate right-of-way, the city has already denied the vacated right-of-way because of plans for further expansion. So there is nothing that the client can do in terms of land acquisition so that we can meet the requirements that are needed in the zoning district of D5. And if you already reference what is stated by staff report, D5 lots that are in D5 need a minimum lot requirement of 5,000 square feet. Even if you include everything that is stretched all the way to the back, this lot is only 2,600 square feet. So all these lots that are in these zoning requirements are supposed to be for medium and large lots, which means that the lot in size needs to be at least 5,000 square feet. And with it being only 2,600 square feet, this land, in terms of what zoning and why we're here today, is considered undevelopable. And so this variance is the only way that you can get a structure onto this lot itself. And then in terms of the 2.5-story requirement that the city is also needed to, the client also fits in regards to that because the height requirement that the city stated was 35 feet. The house currently comes in at 32 feet. And then we also abided by, the city recommended that we change the pitch of the roof. So originally, the original construction was going to be a flat roof. However, we've now adjusted that to fit with what is going on with the neighborhood aspect to now make it a traditional pitched roof so that it can fit in with the aesthetic of what's going on with the neighborhood. In addition to that, they also stated that the top story, or what is considered the attic space or the half story, cannot take up more than 60% of the floor that is existing beneath it, correct? So if you look at the measurements on the blueprints, it states that the top floor square footage is 440 square feet. The top floor square footage is 780 square feet. If you do the math, the top floor takes up only 55% of the second floor. So again, my client fits within the zoning requirements of what is required for the half story. So with all of that being said, and then I also want to point out the fact that I have photos of when the signs were originally posted for the petition, which was originally the signs were put up in April, so everybody in the neighborhood has had more than adequate amount of time to know about what is exactly going on with the piece of lot itself. And so with that being said, my client just really needs a 0-foot setback requirement from Glen Drive. With all those things being stated, and like I said, with the lot size and how the zoning is required, the fact that my client only needs one variance in terms to develop this lot is in of itself a miracle in essence, but there should be no reason that the board and the staff doesn't approve this build in terms of how that lot is cut, what is currently being developed, and how many of the current zoning requirements that is already currently being met with what is required by the city.
Is that it?
Yes, I do have somebody here in support. So if you want to give him, I don't know if that's done now or later, but if
he would like to step up now, yeah, as a petitioner and state his name and address.
Yes, name is Osvaldo Villa. Address is 4602 Buena Vista Drive, Indianapolis, Indiana, 46228. I am actually the builder for this site. So if you notice in the back, there was I was informed that there was some concern as to where the actual property ends. I was able to get in contact with the the survey company that we are using for it, and they are fully in support as to where they put the stakes at, because the individuals that are going against this are saying that it is too far into the alleyway. But as you notice, where their property ends is the same as to where my client's property ends as well. So there's really not much more of an alleyway that my client is taking up. That seems to be a concern as to why they want to reject this variance. And I think that's it. Yep. Yep. Thank you.
Remonstrators? Please state your name and address.
Name is Vernon Compton, address 2270 North Parker Avenue. I'm president of Brightwood Concerned Citizens. I sent Ms. Genesis a report and pictures of the surveyor mark being put in the alley above 11 feet when it's supposed to be at the end of the lot at 8 feet. So the surveyors are extending the distance of this lot. And I don't know, with her reputation, and I don't know if she gave my letter of disapproval and the information I emailed her, because she has a tendency to white lie things that she does and does not do. Okay. So do you have a copy of the letter that I sent and the information that I sent her? Because she's...
Sir, please,
What?
let's not disparage staff. Let's state to the comments and the facts. We'll hear this case.
All right. Do you have the letter?
Do we have a letter from you?
Right, that I sent to her. Do you have the pictures that I took and the description that I gave her last week? Because on May the 16th, I sent her an email and him an email.
Sir.
And in my email, I requested
we do have
printable copy.
We do have
of the legal disclaimer of sheet A, and she never responded with that information.
Well, we have
they
it.
respond to that
We
information.
have it here. She
So
did receive
I asked
it.
for the dimensions of the building. She never sent me that information. So what information does she have up there about what I said?
We have a copy of your letter and what you're referring to, and we have seen it, and it's here in our packet. So to answer your question, yes, we received it.
All right. Well, the survey marks are in the right-of-way of the alley, and I took pictures of that, and it's above 8 feet. And the alley is not where the end of the lot is. This house is being built inside the right-of-way, and DPW does not have a letter of approval of it. So I'm requesting that it be denied.
Okay.
Okay. Do you have the pictures that I sent?
Appears. Let's see.
I don't see them on the screen.
Yes, we do.
All right. Do you have the pictures of the surveyors mark in the alley, which is supposed to be in the lot size?
Do you have pictures?
Because the lot is only so many feet back, and it's the right-of-way cannot be in the middle of the alley. So whoever surveyed that is trying to extend the size of the lot to make it appear bigger than what it really is.
Sir, there's your
The lot
letter.
was originally, I'm not finished
Sir,
yet.
there's
The
your
lot was
letter.
originally deeded to the house next door.
Sir, I'm
by
trying to
William
answer your
Hutner.
question. There's your letter, and there's the pictures that we have, so you can see what we actually have.
Okay.
The letter was in the
That's
floor.
not the end of the lot in the middle of the alley. It's supposed to be 8 feet, and it's above 8 feet. It's 11 feet.
Okay.
Okay, so they're lying as the size for that lot. That lot never was intended for a house to be put on by the title search that I done when William Hutner did it in 1977, deeding it to the property of the house next to the lot for $1. And it came from DPW.
Okay.
Okay, that was the title search I done on the lot. So that lot never was intended for a house to be put on.
Okay. Well, I just want to go on the record as the chair of this board that Mrs. Hill did share the information that you said that you sent to her with us, okay, and that we have it. And I appreciate you sharing that with us and coming. Is there anyone else who would like to remonstrate on the issue at this time? Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is
Good
Annette
afternoon.
Hammeter. I live at 2365 North Parker, 46218. I am the owner that is next door to this property, and the issue is for me, as being the homeowner next door, is that there's no easement outside my door. I walk outside the door and it's 6 feet. If there was a sewer, water line, anything built next door, it would cause some problems for me. As the homeowner, also living in the neighborhood, putting that container home on the corner, there would be some issues as far as turning right off of that corner, because most of the size of the lot is in the front and not in the back, so it can't be centered in any way. So there would be some construction turning on that lot. Also, with the 8 foot in the back is concerning to where would the parking be for that homeowner. They are asking for DWP to extend. Like they also said, that area that they purchased was not an area built for a home, and it would cause a great deal of problems for that community driving or in that area. And that's all I have to say today.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Hello, welcome.
Hello, Nancy, you need to.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalty for perjury to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
I'm Paula Brooks. My address, I'm here as a community advocate from Who's Environmental Council. The address is 2951 North Meridian Street. And I just would like to state two things. One thing is the petitioners did not meet with the neighborhood. They had 2 months. We had a meeting scheduled. They didn't show up. They didn't contact Ms. Gunn to reschedule. So, you know, some of these issues, especially with Mr. Compton's concern with the property line, it could have been resolved if the petitioners had enough respect for the community to come in and talk to the community members. Also, I want to state that the residents welcome new housing, so it's not a question of not wanting development, but it needs to be appropriate for the community, and I don't think that this particular proposal is appropriate at this time. Lastly, if you notice, there's no room to put a sidewalk on Glen Drive. We don't know, in the future, there may need to be a sidewalk there. There's no room for that. So that needs to be taken in consideration too. So I think the petitioners just need to think about shrinking the size of the house.
All right, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Yes. Are there any other remonstrators who'd like to speak on this case? I think there is.
Good afternoon. My name is Jacqueline McMillan Gunn. My address is 2302 Ralston Avenue, Indianapolis, Indiana, 46218-3684. I am chairperson for Martindale Brightwood Co-Compliance and Land Use. And I just want to add to what everyone else has said. First and most importantly, I did reach out to the petitioner to schedule an opportunity for us to meet with them as a neighborhood association, so maybe we could work out these items that we're talking about today. Even the morning of our meeting, I scheduled 3 meetings back to back to deal with various petitions, and theirs was the first one on the docket for us that morning. I even sent out the Zoom invite again so that they wouldn't have to look for it, and again, they did not see the need to come to the table and discuss the issues that are being presented today. For all the reasons that Ms. Agnetta and Mr. Compton and Ms. Brooks has disclosed to you all, I support those, and I am against this petition being approved.
Okay. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Are there any other remonstrators in the room regarding this case on this docket? Okay, seeing none, we'll now hear from staff.
Thank you, Chairperson McKay and members of the board. Staff is recommending approval of 2022 HOV 004 due to the fact that there is a clear practical difficulty in developing the lot. If you look at the lot, it actually is 2,600 square feet approximately. The required lot size for the D5 district is 5,000 square feet. Technically, by right in the D5 district, you are permitted to build a single-family dwelling without the variances or without the variance for the 0-foot setback for the corner side on the south side, which is an abutting a dwelling and has a significant right-of-way, as you can see in the image above. For Glen Drive, I did measure, so technically the right-of-way that is existing for Glen Drive is actually meeting the proposed right-of-way, so if there are any expansions to the street for Glen Drive, it should be sufficient. Additionally, if there's a sidewalk to be built or constructed there, I believe it is also sufficient. So yeah, really the reason why staff is recommending approval is because there is a clear practical difficulty. Otherwise, this site would honestly be undevelopable, and again, by right, they are permitted to build a house in the D5 district. If you have any questions or concerns, I am happy to answer any. Thank you.
Are there any questions for staff on the board?
Yes. Mr. Compton mentioned that he did a title search, and sounds like he may have found some sort of deed restriction. Have we seen a copy of that, and do we know if there's any sort of restrictive covenant that says that this can't be developed as a single-family dwelling?
So it is a platted lot, and we do have legal descriptions that are provided with the actual application that is basically revised by a planner on staff, and she confirms the lot lines and everything. Additionally, I believe the petitioner stated that they actually had a surveyor go out to the site, which is honestly more confirmation, I would say, because they have a degree in surveying. So when it comes to stuff like that, especially when we've already pre-approved the legal description, this should really suffice.
Any other questions for staff? Thank you, Ms. Hill. Petitioners, you have a chance for rebuttal, 5 minutes.
So it's not really going to be much of a rebuttal, but it's going to be more of a confirmation over what Genesis just highlighted, which is that, again, we've reached out to the survey company that came out and plotted the lines. They are 100% confident in where they place the stakes at based off of the legal description that the city provided. So based off of that, if the Brightwood Martindale Concerned Citizens Group really does have an issue, they have to bring it up with the survey company, because the survey company is telling that they are 100% confident where they place those lines. In regards to the title work, if you listen closely to what Vernon mentioned, that title poll was from 1977. When my client acquired this plot of land, a title search was required to be done by Chicago Title, and Chicago Title gave even more confirmation based off of the legal description of the city, based off the fact that the survey company came out, and the fact that the title company already did an updated title search within the year already shows that this lot is condoned to have a house built on it, or else those things wouldn't be around. In addition to that, there was several mentions of the fact that we didn't come to some sort of email or we didn't have some form of communication. This is where I want to explicitly clear up the timeline of what has happened, because originally when we brought this to the city's, to the staff's recommendation, they recommended us for an expedited hearing pre-April, which was in March. we got clearance to do an expedited hearing, which means that since we acquired, or at least since March, even predate that, because when my client was on the lot of land, we had conversations with the neighbor in regards to what was going up in the plot of land next door. So that predates all the way to February. And then if you want to go based off of March, we've been reaching out since March in regards to the build, trying to get this cleared up before the expedited hearing, trying to get this cleared up before they filed their first right of continuance. The reason that they're wanting to bring this up now as an issue is because they don't have any more right of continuances to delay this project. So now they want to make it seem more of an issue. And as I just want to clear up, my builder has recordings of him going to the neighbor's house on multiple occasions to try to speak with the neighbor in terms of what was happening with the project. So again, just want to clear all of that up. And then again, as Genesis mentioned with the right-of-way, if there's ever future development along Glen Drive, there's more than enough space for the city to do what they need to do without impeding on our piece of land. And in the staff report, they also mentioned that there was nothing that was going to be impeding in the right-of-way with the development of the house. So for all these reasons, there should be no issue in granting 2363 North Parker Ave the variance, especially when, if you look at the history, the city has actually approved another variance along Glen Drive. And so based off of precedence alone, because of the grant on the variance of that address, there should be no reason that there isn't a variance granted here along Glen Drive as well.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yep.
Just real quick. You mentioned you spoke with the neighbor next door.
Correct.
Was there any talking with the neighborhood association or the group? There was two ladies that said that you were invited and didn't attend.
Yes, actually. So we actually spoke with the neighbor, we spoke with Vernon, and I actually had a conversation in regards to, I'm so sorry, what was your name? Onyet. Yeah, so I had a conversation with Onyet, and I explained the situation to her, which is that she tried to reach out to us 2 weeks before this hearing, not prior to all those months that we were reaching out. Based to Vernon, we reached out to the neighborhood. This is even the extent that we went to. We went to the Facebook page of the Martindale Brightwood Concerned Citizen Group, found the email address of his associate, tried to get in contact with him, and we were basically met with, please politely do not ever contact us again, and basically just told us to basically mind our own time. And so with that being said, I've spoke to every single person that came and remonstrated today, and none of them reached out to the 3 months prior that we were reaching out in regards to the court case, or in regards to this case today.
Okay. Do you have anything else to add, petitioner? Is that it?
Me?
Yep.
Yeah, just one thing.
Okay.
In regards to any utilities that will be installed, as you can see, the individual living next door is concerned as to when they step out, I'm assuming from their side door. All utilities, and I have reports of them now, will be ran from the front going, I want to say that's Parker, so there will be...
Okay. You're almost out of time. Your time is gone, but go ahead and finish real quick.
No, just wanted to say, no utility should be obstructing her pathway on the side of the home. Everything will be installed from the front. So in regards to that, she should be good.
All right, thank you for your time.
All right, someone did come to my house. We don't operate that way. When we talk to to them, it has to be in a group forum. There's more than one person at a time coming to my house. He talked to my secretary of the neighborhood association, told him that he knows where I live at. Okay, if he want to come knock on my door, that's the issue right there, okay?
Right.
We gave them enough time. I sent him an email May the 16th. He didn't respond. I sent it to her. She didn't respond. Okay. Didn't get the dimensions of the house until last week. Now, the survey remarks are in the middle of the alley. Okay, we don't operate one-on-one. We are in a quorum together, all right?
Association.
So we don't operate one-on-one. I don't go to his house, knock on his door. I think that's very rude and very unprofessional, okay? And he never did contact me. After I made that May 16th, I sent it to her. She never responded, And then she tells her little white lies of why she didn't give me the information. I still don't have the disclaimer that I asked for on page A. She never gave me that. They never gave me that. And he's never contacted me. Next.
Okay. Is there anyone else who would like to? Yes.
I
Thank
just
you.
needed to share that I spoke to Richard, and I cannot pronounce the other petitioner, the builder's name. At the beginning, I spoke to them. They let me know they were interested in buying the property, and I shared with them what they were buying because they assumed that the right-of-way was a part of their lot that they was trying to purchase. I shared with them how small it was to go back and look at what they were purchasing. I have never refused talking to them. I don't know anything about them coming to my home. Okay. I've spoken to the builder. He's been very rude and angry about the situation, and I told him that that's my home next door, and I have to fight for my rights to the end, but you don't have to be so nasty. But that's not what he was interested in. After I told him, they had told me they would build a garage at my home if I was for this. I never shared that, but him coming up saying that he never spoke to me is not true.
Okay.
We have spoken more than once.
Appreciate your time.
Hi, Jacqueline McMillan Gunn back again. I just want to say thank you all so much for engaging us in this petition this afternoon. I want to personally apologize to everyone that's involved today because I don't believe in the name dropping, name throwing, slander, and all that kind of stuff. So please accept the apologies from Martindale Brightwood Co-Compliance as well as Mr. Compton and Ms. Agnette for any language that was used that should not have been used at this meeting this afternoon. We do stay committed to not wanting to have this zoning approved, and for all the reasons that have been stated.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Paula Brooks again. I would just like to add, I've been working with the residents for several years on building their capacity for them to be able to actually advocate for themselves, and you see the result of this. So there is a procedure in place, and the petitioners, they just totally ignored it. In reference to previous variances, it's really a new day again in Martindale Brightwood when it comes to zoning and land use and community engagement and concern about their neighborhood. There's a lot of speculators that are coming into the neighborhood now. They're not concerned about community and building community. They just want to flip homes. And our fear is that this is the case with this petitioner. There's an opportunity to work out development on that lot, but they're not willing to come and negotiate. Lastly, every lot in a neighborhood does not have to be developed. When you have these streets that go, I'm finished.
It's okay. You can finish up real quick.
When you have these streets that are not true north-south streets and you end up with these corner lots, sometimes they're undevelopable. There was some beautiful heritage trees on that lot that they tore down without regard. So thank you.
All right, yes, thank you for your time. Any questions for the remonstrators from the board? No? We will now vote on 2022 HOV-004.
2022 HOV 004, 3 votes cast. McKay voted no. Duncan voted yes. Napoleon voted no. 1 yes vote, 2 no votes. Due to this indecisive vote, petition 2022 HOV 004 will be automatically continued to the next hearing of the board being August 2, 2022. DV 1011, amended petition 1422 English Avenue, Center Township, Council District 17, Zone D5. Magenta Homes LLC by Mark and Kim Crouch.
Oh, please. Thank you, Heather.
2022 DV 1011, amended petition 1422 English Avenue, Center Township, Council District 17, Zone D5. Magenta Homes LLC by Mark and Kim Crouch, requesting a variance of development standards of the Consolidated Zoning and Subdivision Ordinance to legally establish an existing structure with a 1-foot east side setback and 7-foot rear yard setback, and to provide for building additions resulting in a 3-story single-family dwelling with a 6-foot east side yard setback, 0-foot west side setback, 7-foot rear yard setback, and open space of 24%. Maximum 2.5-story dwelling permitted, 7-foot side setback, 20-foot rear setback, 40% open space required. All persons speaking on this today, please step forward to be sworn in. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalty for perjury to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
And my name is Mark Crouch. My address is 124 East Pleasant Run Parkway, Indianapolis, Indiana, 46225. Here today for 1422 English Avenue. Probably should have asked for a continuance of some sort, but I didn't have a chance to speak with staff, and I didn't feel it was appropriate. So here we are. I'd like to explain a little bit of the case and maybe make some amendments quickly and then ask for a continuance, if that is okay with staff.
Staff, would you like to comment on his request?
First of all, I believe the petition was amended a second time, removing the request for the third floor. If the petitioner will confirm that that is still current?
Correct.
Okay. If the board could then acknowledge that withdrawal of the third floor variance.
We can acknowledge that.
As proposed, then, amended, second amended. Staff does have concerns as the attempt to legally establish is in conjunction with an increase in the capacity and density and intensity of the site. Setbacks are normally required to keep a minimum distance between the property improvements and help reduce drainage on adjacent properties. As this building was originally developed, pre-current ordinance restrictions, staff believes that the setbacks should be compliant with the current ordinance restrictions due to the increased intensity of the property to a 2.5-story dwelling, where a 1.5-story dwelling existed prior. According to assessor's records, the original dwelling on the site was built in 1890. It was a 1.5-story dwelling with the pre-ordinance reduced side setbacks that the petitioner is requesting to legally establish. At the 1.5 story, that size and massing the dwelling would still allow for some sunlight and air circulation between adjacent dwellings, whereas the proposed 2.5 story would reduce that amount. And staff believes would negatively impact adjacent dwellings if allowed to maintain the existing setbacks. Staff believes that the proposed construction as an expansion of the original dwelling should adequately align with modern development standards in order to better preserve the intent of each development standard. Given the increase in size of the proposed dwelling and garage, in staff's opinion, the site would be overdeveloped and reduce the open space area for on-site drainage if granted. The requested setback and if the requested setback and open space reductions are granted.
So
the proposed reductions in setbacks to an open space would be detrimental to the use and value of the future development. Okay. I apologize. Mark, I didn't hear your all of your original comment, so you are continuing it?
Yeah. If you would like to go ahead and explain, I just wanted to get his take on if the staff was amenable to that.
So we had missed unfortunately, we had missed the neighborhood association meeting. I didn't know if the neighborhood might have been here and wanted to speak, so I wanted to be respectful for that. I don't think that they're here, but I wanted to acknowledge that. Secondly, we had some amendments that we were going to make. We had been working with Robert, but because of the time, we just had not been able to get back and forth with the city permit office and back with Robert, and the owner is a Israeli national, so it's been a little bit tough communication with him. The extension for the 1 month brings me to vacation time that I'm in, so I would be asking for a 2-month continuance there. But I believe that we will be able to withdraw the petition because most of the issues that we're working out, I think this originally was a huge structure. Mm-hmm. We've been reducing it, and that's how we kind of got into some issues. We had a building permit. We were increasing the height, this is correct, which we were allowed to do under the current ordinance, but legalizing the existing structure, once we had found there were some issues with it, in correcting that, we got ourselves into trouble because we removed too much of the original non-conforming and non-to-code structure. Okay. So then we had to file for a variance to legalize it, which staff has been against, as well as the neighborhood. So we keep reducing and getting it down to where we don't need, I think, a variance. We're about 2 issues away. Of the open space would be 1 issue. The open space was not an issue. We originally was 2 lots. Now that it's going to be developed into 2 houses, originally as platted, the open space is a little bit out of whack. Not much for the neighborhood, not much for how it's done, but we've actually reduced another 8% since my last conversation with Robert, which I think is significant. Additionally, we reduced the height of it, which I don't believe that we have to do because our building permit is actually legally allowing the 3-story. Splitting hairs on that one, but we agreed to go with the 2.5 and come in compliance with the ordinance. So I think we're close, and I didn't want to just come up here and ask for a continuance. I just wanted to explain that a little bit and give out a respect for not going to the neighborhood meeting, allow them a chance to speak or deny that today.
Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to share with the board about changes you're making on this?
So we have, so originally this was constructed pretty much from the front street to the rear alley. The original garage door was to the west, now it is to the north. So when we did that, the city recognized that there was a significant change in that rear wall, enough that they wanted us to apply for a variance as a new wall. So that's why we were here for that. But by removing the attachment, it's now a detached garage, so that pretty much eliminates that request for the rear yard setback. Additionally, the 3-foot setback is now established because it is 2 lots. So I don't know that we need a variance for the side yard setback. I believe under the new ordinance it's 5 foot. We wouldn't meet that, but the existing garage is 3 foot off of that western property line. Our other addition does not encroach upon the side yard setback, and I know that by reducing it, we've added 8% more to the open space, which I think gets us to 32 and not 40. But I believe at the last hearing, we weren't calculating overhangs anymore. I think we're probably going to be at the 40, but I just need more time to go over that with the permit department and possibly a surveyor so that we have the exact number that we can vote correctly on what we have.
Okay. Anyone else here in support of the petition today? Are there any remonstrators here on 2022 DV1-011? Seeing none, we'll hear from staff.
Thank you, Chairperson McKay. My apologies on my previous ramble.
It's okay.
At the last hearing, staff did indicate they would not support any more continuance, and staff is hesitant to support. However, staff does believe the petitioner is in good faith trying to amend this and reduce the number of petitions, and has had ongoing discussions with the neighborhood as they have been in communication with me as well. Therefore, staff has no objection to this, to another 1 month continuance. Hopefully we could get this wrapped up within a month. Is that what you're asking for, August 2nd?
The problem there was automatic. I would not be here next month, so it could switch to a different board, but well, I'm hoping that we can just withdraw the petition by then.
Let's continue it 2 months to September, and if we can withdraw it, we'll do that in the interim.
Yeah, and I think we'll have some information to you within the next week.
I would like to keep it with this board for various other reasons.
Totally okay with that.
So
that
what date are we talking about in September? What date, if we continued it, what date would the...
September 6th is the next hearing of your division. I believe there's a schedule in your folder.
Yeah, I'm looking here. So just for clarification, right? So we're asking for a continuance, right? And we're still do we need to vote or acknowledge the commitment about the reduction from the 3-story to 2.5 at this time, or anything?
Well, you would acknowledge that, or we could, I mean, it's your decision to ignore it if we're continuing, but you could acknowledge that amendment.
Okay. So do we need to take a vote by ballot on the continuance?
No, it's a verbal vote.
It's a verbal vote?
Just like what he could have done at the beginning of the hearing during the special request.
I get it. Yep. All right, and there are no remonstrators here on the case. All right. So anything else staff would like to add, or? Okay, and you have 5 minutes if you need it or not? No?
Don't.
Okay.
Good.
All right, so we can vote now as a board. Duncan?
Excuse
yes.
me, before you vote, are we voting for a continuance?
Continuance on 2022 DV1-011.
To the September 6th hearing.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
September 6th hearing. Mr. Duncan, go ahead.
Duncan, yes.
Ms. Napoleon?
Napoleon, yes.
McKay is a yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you, Mr. Yolanda.
2022 UV1002, amended petition, 2535 East 79th Street, Washington Township, Council District 2, Zone D4, FF, William M. Gammon Jr. and Beth L. Gammon by Garrett E. Lawton, requesting a variance of use and development standards of the Consolidated Zoning and Subdivision Ordinance to provide for a shipping container, commercial vehicles not permitted, and a carport accessory structure is not permitted without a primary structure, with a 14-foot front setback, 25-foot front setback required, both within the floodway fringe, non-building or detached structures only permitted in compliance with specific conditions. All persons speaking on this today, please step forward to be sworn in. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalty for perjury to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Petitioner, please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Garrett Lawton. I'm here on behalf of William and Beth Gammon, the property owners. My office address is McNeely Law. That's 143 West Market Street, Suite 600A, Indianapolis, Indiana 46204. We're here today on our petition 2022-UV1-002 as amended. The subject parcel is 2535 East 79th Street, Indianapolis, Indiana 46240. That's at the corner of 79th and Temple. Just for some context before I get into the packet that I handed I gave to be distributed. So basically what we're asking for, the gist of it is just to maintain the status quo on this property. The storage container at issue has been there for at least 40 years without any issues. And then the carport has been there for about 10 years. This actually came about because the city filed a zoning matter. We've since resolved all of the other issues as part of the zoning matter, but the one lingering issue was the container. The Gammon's garage burnt down, and so now it is acting as the storage for what it was in the garage. So anyway, I handed out this packet. I'm just going to walk through it, and then I'm going to let Mr. Gammon speak a little bit. So initially, we've got our petition here. Our proposed findings of fact, our warranty deed, which just evidences the ownership of the Gammons. And then this is the more substantive stuff. So I've got our area map here, and all of these maps are from the Indy GIS. So you can kind of see here the corner of 79th and Temple. It's this parcel that's dead set in the center here. You can see on the south side of the parcel that little white box is the container. To the east of that or the right is the carport, and then in between the two is a large pine tree. The next page is our site plan. This just indicates all of the different setbacks. As indicated, because of the location of this parcel, it actually has two front yards, so to speak, so the north and the east there. So the carport and the container are both within that east front yard setback, and then the container itself is within the south rear yard setback. I suppose the carport is as well. And actually, just flipping back to the site plan real quick, I did want to mention, because one of the things that came up in our discussions with the planner was the characteristics of the neighborhood. You can see here the neighborhood is highly residential, very low traffic. It's right there by the White River, kind of where it bends. You've got a lot of vacant parcels with solo accessory uses. Just south of here, there's a parcel that only has some honeybees on it. So this is not unusual for the area. That this is what is actually rather common. Flipping 2 pages there, we've got a sort of grainy black and white area map. This is again from the Indy GIS. This is the 1986 aerial, and you can see there the box labeled 2535 at the corner of East 79th and Temple. On the south part of the parcel there, that's the container. So as I mentioned, it has been there for a long time. The previous owners, we believe, put it there, but it was there when the Gammons purchased it. Going to the next set of pages, we've got pictures of the subject parcel, and I'll just kind of walk you through those. So this first one, you can see the container there in the carport. This is from the corner, the southeastern corner along 79th Street. Then on the next page, it's just moving further up 79th Street. So you can kind of see the container, but then the carport's right there. The next picture is from the corner of 79th and Temple. So again, at this point, you really can't see much of the container at all, but you can see a little bit of the carport. And then the final picture is from Temple itself, facing south. And really, I mean, you can kind of make out the boat there, and a little bit of the carport and the container, but not much. And you can also see the level to which the Gammons maintain this parcel as well. On the next page, we've got a letter in support of a neighbor. And then the 3 pages after that are signatures of neighbors, people who actually live in the neighborhood right there. There's more than 30 signatures on this page here. I did want to, you might be a little confused by the last few pages, so I included some sales information. We received, at least to my knowledge, remonstration from the Greater Allisonville Community Alliance, I think is maybe what it is. Seems to be more of a business association. And then the city councilor of the adjacent district, not the city councilor of this district. I was not able to reach the counselor. I called and emailed, he didn't respond. But I did touch base with the Allisonville folks, and their main concern was what allowing this to remain on the property would do to the property values. So I'm also a real estate agent, so I was able to pull the listing information for the only 3 properties that have sold in the last year in the area. And if you look at the top right corner of each of those, the first 2 are homes, and the third one is just a blank or a empty parcel. They all sold for over list. So there's, at least within the last year, there doesn't seem to have been any negative impact on the container and the carport. So anyway, our request here is not requesting any development. We're just asking to maintain the status quo. This really is what the variance process is meant for. To remove the container and the carport for my clients who are on disability would be an enormous hardship. To find a place for them to store the things that are within the container, again, would be an enormous hardship. This has existed for so long, really without any problems, and it's just by happenstance that a city inspector saw it and reported it, and that's why we're here. It may have gone for another 40 years without issue had that not happened. So again, just asking that these folks be allowed to enjoy the parcel the way they have since they bought it in 2000. And with that, I'm gonna, I will mention, we are open to a commitment by which the allowance of these variances would only be for the current owners. If they sold the property, the sale would be contingent on the removal of these items. That is something that my clients would entertain. So with that, I would let Mr. Gammon say a few words.
Thank you.
My name's William Gammon. I live 2707 East 79th Street, Indianapolis 46240. First place that me and my wife met, first time I ever went over there to date her, we played volleyball on that lot. We've been married 33 years now, and that was 40 years ago. So that's how long it's been there. People that I bought the house from put it there, and he said they had everything okay. So I don't know what the problem is. I've been cutting the grass over there for the last 33 years, and I paid for 2 ash trees to be cut down for the city. I paid $3,500 for that. I cut all the easement grass. I cut all around there, so it's all looks nice and everything. Just like to stay with what we got. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Still have you have a few minutes if you'd like to add anything else, or?
Will I get a chance to?
You will?
Yeah. I'll say it.
Are there any remonstrators in the room for 2022 EV1-002? Okay, seeing none, we'll hear from staff.
Thank you, Chairperson McKay and members of the board. Staff would like to note that there was an amendment to this petition. We had included a variance for a 6-foot tall fence. However, the petitioner did confirm that's not within the property boundaries, so that was removed from the request, just FYI.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So staff is recommending denial of the request. The grant of the request would allow for the location of a shipping container and a carport with a deficient front setback in the D4 district. However, the comprehensive plan recommends for suburban neighborhood development, and that mainly includes single families with their associated accessory structures. The petitioner did note that this is a residential neighborhood and the surrounding area does have accessory structures, but those are related to primary uses. So if there's no primary dwelling on the property, then it is inappropriate for there to be accessory structures just on a vacant lot. And that's the part that's not in compliance with the neighborhood aesthetics. Additionally, there are requirements, or at least there are specific items that can be considered commercial vehicles which are not permitted in dwelling districts. In fact, they're prohibited. For example, no commercial vehicles shall be parked, stored, maintained, or kept on any property in the dwelling districts unless the vehicle has a gross vehicle weight rating of 10,000 pounds or less, or the vehicle is parked, stored, or maintained within a carport garage, and it's not categorized as a commercial vehicle based on the definition. And then whether the vehicle is parked or stored on a site where active legal construction activity is taking place. Commercial vehicles that are in the course of making normal and responsible service calls are exempt from this provision. What is included in the ordinance as a commercial vehicle are a number of 5 items. I won't note them all out, but the shipping container would be categorized as a commercial vehicle, which is a prohibited use. This subject site has been in violation since July 11th, 2018. That is a significant amount of time to be in violation. To this date, there have been 26 inspections conducted from the city, so that is an excessive amount of resources being put in place for one property that has been in violation for such a long time. 22 of those inspections resulted with no intention of correcting the zoning violation, so that lets you know how long it was waited, how long the duration period was till they filed for a variance to even seek to correct the issues with the site. The need for a variance does not arise from a particular condition of the property involved because it is zoned residentially and could be developed residentially. The petitioner's finding of fact note that the storage unit's use over 22 years has been a benefit to the property and surrounding area. Staff would argue that a storage shed, although not permitted within without a primary dwelling on the site, would be more appropriate for a residential area and could have the same capacity for storage rather than having a commercial vehicle on site if it were to be associated with a dwelling. The grant would interfere substantially with the comprehensive plan because the storage of commercial vehicles is not envisioned within the suburban neighborhood typology. Furthermore, the grant would create a precedent that this would be an acceptable use in a residential neighborhood. The entire site is located within the 100-year floodplain. All uses within this area are subject to certain development standards of the flood control zoning ordinance. However, the commercial storage unit is not a permitted use in the D4 district. Staff would argue that the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance has been affected in a substantially adverse manner, which caused the neighbor to file a formal complaint through the Mayor's Action Center for the subject property. The petitioner's findings of fact note that the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance would create the issue of having to remove the structure from the property. This could be resolved with the sale of the storage unit to a commercial business that could move the structure from the site and would be allowed to relocate the storage unit at an appropriately zoned district. In staff's opinion, the denial of the request would not result in practical difficulties in the use of the property because other means of storage could be proposed on site if necessary, or the property could be sold and developed as a residential dwelling, which would be the highest and best use of the site. Let's see. On page 86 of the staff report, there's an 1986 aerial map that notes when the structure was not present, and then an aerial map of 1990 when the storage unit was put in place. Additionally, the carport on site was built between 2011 and 2012 based on aerial images. Both of these structures have been put in place without the proper permits or process being followed. Staff would note that there have been, if in fact the site has been used for the commercial vehicle for 40 years, that is 40 years being in violation, and 10 years for the carport being in violation because there are no permits associated to that structure. With that, I'd like to make one more comment. The city has given them repeated chances to come into compliance. They have chosen to try to legally establish an illegal structure. At no time since the 1960s has it been legal to use a trailer for storage. This, coupled with other property maintenance complaints, has resulted in ongoing nuisances for the city. I would like to note that there were 4 letters of remonstrance from Councilor Boots, which is from District 3, not within this district, River Park Club Neighborhood Association, the Greater Allisonville Community Council, and Nora Northside Community Council. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for staff?
I do have a question. You mentioned that there's been a finding on this since 2018?
That is correct. They were in violation since July of 2018.
So were there fines and fees just paid?
I do not believe so. There were fines, give me a moment. Okay, so in 2018, there were 2 inspections, September and October, where the violations were not corrected. The property owner filed to dispute the citations and fees in October 2018, and the records indicate that the appeal was denied, and that was with the Department of Business and Neighborhood Services. I am not sure if they've continuously been subject to additional fees. That would be a question for the petitioner.
Any other questions for staff? If not, petitioner, you have 5 minutes.
So I just want to note a couple of things because the way that's characterized makes it kind of like we've just been avoiding responsibility for the last 4 years, which I can assure you is not the case, as I've been the attorney on this since 2018. So as I mentioned, Mr. and Mrs. Gammon are on disability, so we've been trying for the last 4 years to come up with some creative solutions that didn't involve the expense and time of going through a variance application. We tried to establish it as a garden as a primary use and found that to be cumbersome, and the city's, not this staff in particular, but the city's representatives weren't even really sure how to go about implementing this thing that was in their very own zoning ordinance. So in regards to the other things that were in the complaint that was eventually filed against the Gammons, as I mentioned, we have resolved those things. There was a burn pile, and the way the canoes were stacked, seemed to be kind of like junk. So we have resolved those issues. The only issue that has lingered for the last, I would say, 3 years at this point is the container. Which, as I mentioned, we tried to remedy. The city attorney, Julie Slaughter, and the judge have actually been very, very understanding. They have deferred the fines in this while we pursue our variance application process. There are fines sort of in place hanging out there if this is not successful, but that is all of that to say that we have not just been dragging our feet for the last 4 years on this issue. We have been trying to resolve it. I don't know about the discrepancy in the 1986 or 1990 aerial. I pulled that aerial myself, so again, as far as I know, it's the 1986 aerial. It actually wasn't a neighbor who called the city on this. It was a disgruntled friend of a neighbor. If they've got some kind of documentation indicating it was a neighbor, I'd be happy to review that. And even if it was a neighbor, that neighbor is not here, and they've not indicated any remonstration. And I really want to dig in on this. I'm on the Broadville Village Association Land Use Committee. I understand the importance of registered neighborhood associations and their processes, but we have 30 plus signatures of actual neighbors in a tight-knit community who are okay with the status quo remaining, and we have nobody here from these neighborhood associations. It's just, these are the folks who live there. They're impacted by the day-to-day. We've provided the documentation that it's not impacting property values. The zoning ordinance and the variance process is meant for this. It's meant for people who would go through a significant hardship if something peculiar to their property was not allowed to maintain. It's, in my opinion, really not so that we can put a container on a sliver of a parcel and turn it into a tiny house. This is what this is for. So I would just ask for your support in maintaining the status quo that has existed for 10 and 40-ish years without issue.
Thank you.
Do you have anything else? Okay. Nothing else.
Nothing else? Okay.
Thank you so much.
Any questions from the board? No? Okay, we'll now vote on 2022 UV1-002.
UV1002, 3 votes cast. McKay voted yes. Duncan voted yes. Napoleon voted no. 2 yes votes, 1 no vote. Due to this indecisive vote, this petition is automatically continued to the August 2nd hearing of the board without additional notice.
Thank you. Do we have any additional business today?
I have no additional business, sir.
If none, this hearing is adjourned. Thank you very much.